Trystie's Quest, or Kit, King of the Pigwidgeons. By Greville MacDonald. Chapter 22. The Leprechaun explains and sails away with Trystie and Robin, a fairy breakfast on board ship. Crickety lay still. He had lost the day, the peppermint, and, besides one of his own eyes, all chance of getting Trystie's. Some of his bodyguard returned. They stuck the skewer through the throne again, set the wounded king upon it and carried it bodily away. Trystie, Davy and the brave captain were left alone. Curdie had disappeared, gone to find Kit again, most probably. His work done, the leprechaun took off his sword belt and laid the rapier in its sheath beside the silver yaw, which was still pouring out its little stream. The belt ran away and joined with the other rivulet, so that the water music now sounded like two singing together. Trystie was holding Robin by the hand again. The captain then knelt before her, on his two knees, as would a humble cobbler, not on one, as might a victorious duellist or a magician who made waters to run or bubble or sing at his bidding. He threw back his hood and lifted my little girl's hand to his lips. I am quite sure her bright face grew very rosy, because the reverential caress made her feel so proud and happy. Then the captain looked up into her eyes. "Where's Kit, Captain dear?" she asked. "Can you take us to him? I heard his recorder singing and it brought you to me. We must find him at once, for the music is getting faint and further away." The leprechaun rose. Trystie stooped to pick up her yaw, but her hand went only into a pool of silvery water. "It's not the yaw ye'll be wanting now," said the captain, "for ye're right in the river again, princess, and the river is in you. It will take ye straight to Kit by its own windings. A big task it is that's before ye, and it spare ye I would, could it be done. Will ye trust me to show ye the quickest way?" "Of course I will, Captain. I couldn't not trust you if I tried," answered Trystie. "Kit's all right with his recorder, I'm sure. But it's Davy I'm so anxious about now." "He's safe with one of me best friends, though up a tree," replied the captain as he led the children to his own boat, in which the sailors were waiting and resting on their oars already. He helped them into the stern, and they were quickly rowed to the fairy ship. When they were on board, Trystie found it was, after all, but a little ship, though big enough to carry them along swiftly and safely. Nothing in Fairyland, or on the fairy river, is any bigger than it need be, which is perhaps the reason why so few people believe in fairies. The anchor was weighed and the sails set, all to rollicking little sailor songs. Slowly they sailed away down the wide river. The captain took the children to the bows. They leaned over the gunwale and looked into the wonderful water, where the happy silver fishes took up the refrains of the sailors' songs and saluted, as they passed, by saucily splashing their nimble tails just out of water. Beyond the gentle wash, wash, and lap of the water, with which the singing kept perfect time, the world was all silent about them. The enemy had fled or vanished. Had the birds won the day? Robin was still happy with his airball and holding his sister's hand. He spoke hardly one word all the time he was in Fairyland. "What does it all mean, Captain?" asked Trystie, after a long silence filled with wonders. "Do things mean the same here as at home?" "Out of Fairyland," he replied, looking very sad. Trystie thought, everybody tries his hardest to mean nothing at all at all. "Oh, but I think you must be wrong there, Captain. My father and mother mean heaps and heaps more than they ever say." "Then it's quite right ye must be, Trystie Mavourneen," eagerly replied the little man. "If ye be telling of your own belongings, they will never be so thick in the instep as the cobbler measures them. Yet it's small differ. What they think they mean, they never mean." Trystie drew herself up a little, and said perhaps a little severely, "I don't understand." "And it's myself will explain to ye, princess," replied the captain in his softest voice, and his eyes shining again as they shone when he leapt out of the boat. "Ye see, there's never a meaning, not in the birds nor the flowers nor the thistledown nor the foam of the storm, without the creature's a fairy. And not even one fairy among them all can mean what he is, without his at home in more than one place at a time." "Then are you somewhere else now?" asked Trystie, puzzled as to what he could mean. "Truth then, ye catch me out," replied the fairy cobbler, laughing for a moment and yet with a fresh touch of sadness in his rippling speech, and falling for once into his richest brogue. "For neither, that I can recall, was I so entirely in one and the same place at the same time as am I now." "Why, where are you then, Captain dear?" asked the girl, as though for a moment he were a child and she must be careful to understand him. "Oh, where, indeed," he answered with strange and tremulous intensity, "if it be not in the one place in the whole world where 'tis impossible for a mannikin cobbler to reach, captain of a flagship though he be, your own big heart, little woman?" He said this so simply and directly that Trystie could not know he was speaking out of deep places in his own heart that he had perhaps never dreamed of before. The wind had freshened, and the captain turned to go aft, but quickly came back to say another word. "When a fairer man names ye for a little woman 'tis more than princess or fairy," he said very earnestly, "so 'tis scorn ye will not be putting upon a leprechaun, who—" But he turned away without finishing his question. In a moment or two, however, he came back and said, "Princess, there is just one place in the world where man or fairy must find every bit of himself, if he would be there at all at all. But the fairer man never gets there, because he cannot be there and not in fairyland too, do whatever he will. Princess, 'twas the cobbler himself that made and kissed the fairy shoon that are moth-erin your little feet. 'Tis Captain Leprechaun will be content to nurse the scald heart he has got for his pains." Then the little green-coated man went and said a word to the quartermaster at the helm. He came forwards again, but stood apart from the children, leaning on the capstan and looking away into the distant land as he sang, in his sweet bird-like voice, "If shepherd bold a fairy fawn would charm, or maiden woo, he plays his pipe at early dawn midst ponds of fairy dew. If fawn be coy, or maiden sad, he calls his merry crew of sheep and lambs, all gaily clad in bells and ribbons blue. The plough may stand, the sheep may stray, all count for naught, I ween, when Colin's art in blithesome May would crown his Cynthia queen. Some stand and wait, or cobble shoes, some dance in moonlit sheen, some softly weep for what they lose, and hide the things they mean." Trystie never quite understood what the little man meant till years afterwards. At present she wondered how it could be that her brave champion, who had saved her life and Robin's, should be so sad as to make her feel she must throw her arms about him to comfort him. She did not do this, however, just because he was behind her. By this time Gallybird's hole was far away. Presently the captain, quite cheerful again, came up to the children, and told Trystie she would soon be at the bottom of the sea, where the iron chest had been left by the goblins. He told her the story, much of which she already knew, of how Iron Curdie had fought the huge cuttlefish, the protectors of Goblin Town, how, one by one, all the grown-up people had died of a kind of plague which the Pigwidgeons call shocklepox, and how the children, not being old enough to take it badly, had got better and wandered away. He told her how they would have grown up into goblins, since they had lost their choose keys, but for one thing. Having no power of choosing between right and wrong since they had no keys to unlock this gift with which every baby is endowed by good fairies at its birth, and being no longer controlled by the iron laws of Goblin City, they ran away altogether, and found shelter in Gallybird's hole. There they became wickeder than even their goblin parents had been. Stupid laws, he said, were better than having nothing at all either to love or obey. He told her also how they would never have been found or seen by mortal eye if Kit had not made new bodies for a few of them and called their poor souls into these bodies by whistling screechy tunes out of his pipe. After that, the whole lot of them became visible and their power for harm became active. "What a pity," said Trystie, "that Kit ever made his pipe." "Nor pity is it either," answered her protector, "for without Kit's patient piping in the barn, you would never have found the little cobbler man. It's a better servant he will be to his queen for your sweet sake, princess, nor yet the iron chest, nor could ye ever have saved the Pigwidgeons." "Oh, indeed, I am glad you came to me, Captain dear," said Trystie, "but I'm afraid I don't care to save the Pigwidgeons now. I only want Kit and Davy and all to go home and you'll come and live with us, won't you, Captain?" But the captain said only one thing to her, looking up into her eyes, with something, she says, of her godmother shining in his face. "Trystie, my child, have you then forgotten the children in Goblin Town and what the keys will do for them?" Captain, oh, I'm a bad child," then exclaimed Trystie with instant understanding. "Take us quickly to my godmother and Kit, and fetch Davy back to us. Then we'll all go and find the iron chest." Whereupon the captain took them aft into the cabin and gave them breakfast, fairy wheaten cakes, honey, snowberry jam, and the very cream of the dew to drink. End of this chapter.